Hey YouTube, it's your boy Chris with another printmaking tutorial video about the many processes, tips, and tricks that I use for screen printing. There's always different ways to approach these techniques, so I acknowledge that this is not the way to do things, but I hope this is a good starting point for you to learn and experiment with what works best for you. Screen printing is cool, which is why you're here, but it's important to share that physically printing is only a small part of the process, probably only 4%. The other 96% being preparation, practice, and unfortunately, patience. So take a deep breath, say a prayer to the printing gods, and let's jump in. The most basic way of creating a screen print is the stencil technique, where an image is cut out of a thin, water-resistant material which is applied to the underside of a screen to block out the parts of the screen you do not want the ink to go. For this, we will need a screen, a squeegee, packing tape, masking tape, any kind of tape really, except for duct tape. Please don't use duct tape. Some ink, something to scoop it with, a marker, an X-Acto knife, a pencil, and some Mac Tack to make your stencil. Alternately, you can use some wax paper, which is how I first learned printing in my youth. Mac Tack is preferable because not only can you draw on it easier, its adhesive quality makes it a billion times more forgiving than wax paper. We'll need something to print on, paper or a shirt, and of course some cool art to work from. All these supplies can be bought at your local art store or online. First, we need to transfer our art onto a slice of Mac Tack. Start by taping your art to a window facing the great outdoors. Then tape the Mac Tack on top and start tracing. You can also use a light table, overhead projector, or any clear surface that can be backlit. You could even use a running microwave or an oven with the light on. And there we go, all traced up. Nice, let's cut it up. I've also gone over the lines with a marker to make them a little bit thicker and easier to cut out, and you'll need to cut both sides of the lines. When we think about stencils, we think about images that are one continuous shape or smaller shapes that compose a larger image. With Mac Tack, the advantage is that you can have elements that aren't connected because the adhesive nature allows you to apply interior parts that resist the ink. Like, think about the letter O. Instead of printing a filled-in circle, we can add the interior circle as well. How cool is that? So, you can see I'm saving the interiors of the fingers to apply later. You can also print the opposite, the negative space, by applying the parts you cut out to the screen, which I'll show as well. Alright, let's get this onto a screen. Peel the paper part off and lay the stencil flat, sticky side up. Then place the screen on top and carefully pat it down. Now that it's on there, we can turn it over and place the other parts on individually. I like to use the part I cut out to help guide me in putting those pieces exactly where I want it. And if I screw up, it's no sweat to peel it off and place it again. But if you are using wax paper, you will be sweating because the stencil won't adhere to the screen until you print it for the first time. Now we add tape to the parts of the screen that don't have the stencil, so the ink doesn't go through anywhere we don't want it to. For % time, let's print. As you can see, I'm holding down the screen with one hand and printing with the other. This isn't so ideal, especially if I was printing something bigger that requires two hands on the screen, because as you can see, I only have two hands. But you can use C-clamps, a screen printing press, or in a pinch, a very kind and patient friend to hold that screen down. In fact, printing with friends is a really cool way to spend the afternoon, night, or wee hours of the morning. It's even a fun activity for a date. And as you can see, we're printing on paper, but that's no excuse to not throw that print on a shirt too. The printing is done, and now it's time for some fun. Let's peel all our hard work off the screen and throw it in the garbage. Depending on the artwork and how messy you were, it is possible to save the stencil. Personally, I like to let them dry and use them as window decals. Now wash the screen promptly with water to reduce the risk of ink drying in your screen. So as promised, I'm also printing the elements we cut out, printing the negative space of the image. I've used the packing tape to create a border for the image as well, but it's also cool and crazier to print it with no tape. Just for fun, I'm throwing a bunch of colors on there because in screen printing, we make our own rules. And maybe one day, I'll do a video on split fountains, which is a fancy printmaking term for printing multiple colors at once that fade into one another. I can even print like this. Don't tell me what to do. Well, there you have it. One art printed 2 different ways with a hand-cut stencil. I hope this has been helpful and answered some of your questions. The most important tip I could give you new printers is to just keep going. Keep printing. Things will go wrong or horribly wrong, but it's in these moments we learn the most. No master printer has gotten where they are without these hard lessons in the 3 Ps: preparation, practice, and patience. Happy printing.